Hello, everybody, and welcome here to the Wine with Jimmy channel. And the Wine with Jimmy channel is all about wine education and helping you maximize your merriment and enjoyment of the world of wine. Here, I'm looking at a series which is called Mastering Germany, and this is where I go into certain countries of the world hugely in depth here in terms of Germany. And I'm looking at the small northerly wine region of the Ahr. This is part 3, talking about grape growing and winemaking. Now, there's only a select few videos available on YouTube for free if you want access to the entirety of the Mastering Germany series, plus many other exclusive videos, including food and wine pairings, professional tasting sheets, regions like Armenia, Georgia, Ukraine, and lots of other goodies, then please do sign up to the Wine with Jimmy Club. And you can do that for just $3.99 a month, and you can cancel at any time. So the links for that are all in the description below this video. Now let's crack on with talking about the Ahr Tal, the Ahr Valley. And we're going to talk about grape growing and winemaking, going through climate, topography, and all of those. Here we go to begin with. So, Ahr is a region that certainly is continental, and it enjoys mild conditions during the growing season. It's in a quite significantly important location. It is situated, and I've shown you this before in previous ones, but I'll go back a slide here. On this map, it is this tiny little number 10 here, south of Düsseldorf, just north of the Mosel, next to the Mittelrhein. Tiny area of about 530 hectares, nestled up there just to the east of the Eifel Mountains. So this area is quite important. So just to the north of the Ahr, where these red arrows are coming from, this is in a lowland area called the Köln Bucht, or the Cologne Bay. This allows warm, moist Atlantic air to sweep inland. But also the Ahr sits in the lee side, the leeward of the Eifel Mountains. That is to the west. And this creates a rain shadow against the westerly winds. So that means that the annual rainfall here is fairly low. Let's say it's kind of low to moderate. You'll see it on your screen there with the rain cloud. 654 millimeters per year, that's 26 inches. The national average for Germany is 830 millimeters, that's 33 inches. So it's a good sort of 20-25% below the national average. It also has really good sunshine hours, normally around 1,450. And this certainly has increased in recent years. Now, a lot of that is to do with the fact that this is a very northerly latitude. This is 50.3 degrees north. And that means because of the tilt of the Earth during summer, there is the potential for longer sunny days. The Ahr can experience summer temperatures that can hit the mercury up to 40 degrees Celsius. That's above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And there often can be summer storms and also high humidity. The average temperatures have certainly climbed in certain years, and you'll see that on the bottom right-hand corner. The AAT there is the average annual temperature. Now, 10.2, 10.3 degrees Celsius, that's around 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, we know it gets really good sunlight here. We get extra solar radiation because of this compacted valley with very dark geology, being often this kind of grey-blue sandstone called greywacke, and then also Devonian blue slate, which both act as a heat source, a heat trap that absorb the heat. Now, that coupled with good sunlight, and then coupled with the fact that we're in this kind of heat-trapped valley, means that we do get really good ripening in the Ahr. Now, we do get rainfall, although it's less, we do get it sporadically, and there can be storms. And this certainly poses greater challenges for grape growers due to things like erosion, disease pressure, on the steeper slopes. And of course, sadly, there was the dramatic flood of 2021, where the River Ahr was 7 meters above its normal levels in July. So this was a summer storm, and this created exponential damage across the region. They estimate about 40 billion euros worth of damage, with villages being impacted, houses being swept away, and sadly, loss of life. Now, let's take a look at the topography in a little bit more greater detail. Okay, so the river first, I've mentioned a little bit about this. Now, its source is a karst spring, so that is a limestone mountain spring in Blankenheim, high in the Eifel Mountains, which, remember, is the westerly mountain range that protects this region from westerly winds and rain. The Ahr flows for about 53 miles, that's 85 kilometers, dropping almost to sea level at the town of Ramagen, where it meets the Rhine. A portion of the Ahr River, where the vines are cultivated, is in sort of the lower area, lower to mid area, and it's actually only 16 miles. So the whole river is 53 miles, but the vineyard area is just 16 miles. That's 25 kilometers. Now, this is what they often refer to as the sweet spot. West of that, it gets higher in elevation with lots of gorges and canyons, and it's too cold, too shaded for viticulture, and you tend to get only poor quality wine production from those areas. The map is showing the extent of the flooding, by the way, of 2021 in that lower part of the Ahr, which is around Bad Neuenahr and Ahr Valley. And this is what I mentioned already, this extreme weather event. This is a picture from Donau in the Ahr Valley, which is in the middle part of the viticultural landscape from July of 2021. So 7 meters above normal levels, as I mentioned. This was dramatically impactful. Now, let's talk about the climate. For such a compact wine region, the Ahr does boast a lot of meso and microclimates, so small location climates. What we do to help understand the Ahr is to split it into 3 unofficial subzones, which I've put there roughly on the map. So we have what is considered the upper Loire, that is on your left-hand side, the middle Loire, and then the lower Ahr, the upper Ahr, middle Ahr, and lower Ahr. Now, sometimes it's called Western, Central, and Eastern. In the Western or upper Ahr, each tight river bend opens onto a different exposition and aspect with different topographical features. Generally shielded from the wind, but exposed to strong sunlight, the air and the soil temperatures of these higher elevation sites can climb quickly during the day and then drop dramatically at night. This is our quite long and wide diurnal ranges here. The middle and the eastern Ahr, which you'll see on your map, so the central part and then to the right, with its lower elevations and generally flatter topography, maintains more consistent temperatures throughout day to night. And these kind of differences and nuances are what are expressed in the Einzellagen single vineyard expressions of the Ahr. Let's talk a bit about the geology, because I love it. The Ahr Valley bedrocks and soils are majorly 2 types. That is what is called Devonian slate or Blauschiefer, blue slate, which is mainly considered here on this geological map in the Devonian era here, this key, and down here, which is what we consider claystone. It's basically how slate is formed and impacted is derived from this. So it's this kind of green and white coloring, which you'll see The box on this slide, by the way, which represents the Ahr River's sort of middle to lower area, is the viticultural landscape that we are looking at. Okay, most of it really actually in the middle and left-hand side of this box. And you can see then there's a lot of the gray shades and green, and that is your mixtures of both your blue slate, your Blauschiefer Devonian slate, but also what would come under this category is the greywacke, which is the sandstone. You'll see that color here as well is very similar to the clay stone, and it's kind of intermingled there. So this is the sandstone Triassic here on this, which is greywacke. So it's a type of dark sandstone. There's also a little bit of volcanic basalt, some loess and loam, and all these soils tend to be really good for heat retention. So it's a major factor of the Ahr. Now, during the Devonian period, which I've just been talking about, this was 420 to 360 million years ago. The area that is known as the Ahr was filled by an inland sea. Sediments were laid down across the millions of years, and these would eventually, under metamorphic pressure, would then be pressured into slate, quartzite, and greywacke. In the Cenozoic era, which is around 60 million years ago, there were tectonic shifts that creating zones of weakness, forming low points between the two areas of higher elevation. Now, this folding processes that created the Rhinish Massif pushed up that saddle or that low point, and the central Ahr experienced the steepest uplift. Now, slate and greywacke are fairly easily eroded, and the river was able to then cut its way through this area in this beautiful, spectacular canyon. And of course, we have dramatic vineyards that go down to the riverside. We have cliffs, and sometimes the canyons really in the real upper Ahr are only separated by about 50 meters. Volcanic activity happened too along an ancient fault line during the Quaternary period, which is around 1 million years ago, and that brought a little smattering of basalt lavas to the surface in the eastern area. So let's put that into practice for you here. So we're going to look just at that boxed area from that geological map, and we're looking at the far western side and then the middle area. So we call this the upper and the middle Ahr. These two portions that you see on your map are dominated by your grayish bluish slate, which is your Devonian slate, or Blauschiefer in German, and then Grauwacke, otherwise known as greywacke, which is your dark sandstone. There's also a little bit of loess and loam as well. Now, slate is very well known as an affinity soil for Riesling, but also it's decent for Spätburgunder. It can deliver richness, power, complexity, and spicy, and even savory notes in Spätburgunder. In earlier, colder areas of the Ahr, slate certainly gave a lot of producers here a wonderful opportunity to ripen Pinot well. There is now arguably difficulties with this as it's getting a little bit too warm as we're in a warm period. But the Grauwacke or greywacke is also superb for Spätburgunder. It can give a little bit more brightness, I would say, finer structure, more chalkiness to it, and restrained fruit, but it's certainly very good. And it's intermixed with the slate in this upper and middle areas. Let's look at the lower or eastern area. Now, this is still the Grauwacke or greywacke. It's still the Blauschiefer or blue slate, but there's more loess here, and there's some volcanic soils. And that's what I have put on your pictures on the left-hand side. An example of blue slate, of greywacke, greywacke, and then loess and basalt. Now, soils not only vary from east to west, but also north to south and higher to lower elevations. Generally, slate and greywacke or greywacke is on the higher sites, and sandy loam and loess, as well as alluvial deposits, are closer to the rivers. Basalt is a dark, rich soil which gives quite powerful and really ripe, fruity Pinot Noirs, and it's a very tiny area, really on the far side. Let's see, is it actually on this map area? Yeah, around sort of Heimersheim area, which is there's small amounts of it. Okay, next up, a little bit about the grape growing. So there is dramatic steep slopes here, and it's just really head and shoulders, literally, but also metaphorically, above the rest of German wine regions. So lovely terraces here. The valley's beautiful villages, which have been somewhat damaged, of course, in the 2021 flood, sit below these amazing slopes, and they date from the Middle Ages. And this is from a time when the Ahr's extreme northerly location needed more than sheltered steep south-facing slopes to make fine wines. You'll find that there are small churches and abbeys here, cloisters that had viticultural outposts in the Ahr, with those being the first to start to input these dry stone terraces within the landscape. It's really quite amazing how they did it. It's artisanal, it's painstakingly painful to get through, and it was carried out generally in winter when other vineyard tasks cannot get done. They think the oldest here in the Ahr dates from 1200, and the construction and reconstruction of these dry stone terraces continued for 600 to 900 years. There's been some modern works done on them as well, but it is expensive and it is often quite hard to do. In terms of numbers, over 2/3 of the vineyards are on steep slopes. That's 30% gradient or greater, and 15% are considered steepest, which is 50% gradient or greater. And elevation certainly gets higher as you go up the Ahr to the Eiffel Mountains. So you get more dramatic slopes as you go, really, in terms of our viticulture, from the middle to the upper Ahr. Most vineyards are at around 100 to 220 meters. That's about 330 to 720 feet. And most vineyards face some formula of south, so southeast, south, or southwest. Some sites in the Ahr are also in amphitheaters, which can naturally trap warmth and light. But there has been some concerns of late because vintages since 2018 have been consistently warm, even hot and dry. So there is certainly steps being taken in terms of shading and potentially resiting of vineyards in order to get fresher sites. Now a little bit on winemaking, just for a few slides. Winemaking. So the quality wine revolution really kicked in the 1980s and 1990s. I mentioned in video 1 with history about Werner Meyer-Neckel, who was one of the first to start really pushing premium Spätburgunders with oak barrique influence. Now, our producers made major investments in things like cellar equipment, especially really taking the impetus on barriques. The Ahr Spätburgunders became more alcoholically powerful. There was more extraction. There was longer maceration times. There was more richness. There was barrique influence. And we have this revolution, I think, really sort of maturing now. there is more restraint in all of what I just mentioned, and wines are more balanced. So the dry styles are what we look for here, and they often are maturing wines in large neutral oak foeders, typically 600 and 1200 liters, and also barrique still from France. It's important to mention a specific style that's often made from Spätburgunder, but not as a red. And that is historically what we call bleached wine, and today what we call Blanc de Noir. Now, Bleichert or Ahr Bleichert was a term meaning bleached or bleached wine of the Ahr, and it was used as early as the 17th century for very, very pale red wines, one would consider probably rosé. The faint pigmentation was likely to result from short macerations. And it's become somewhat of a signature today in a modern phraseology of Blanc de Noir. But this is no longer got any color. This is a white made from black grapes. It's actually very well loved in the Ahr, and it took off around 2010 in response to Germany's white wine boom. One could say bloom as well for a pun on words. So the French name certainly has its roots of etymology in French terminology. And to make this fresh, light, still wine, producers will simply press off their red grapes with no maceration on skins. And it gives a flexible style. In every given vintage, they can divert a larger or smaller share of their red grapes to Blanc de Noir. So you can end up, therefore, making more concentrated red, or you want to increase the production of Blanc de Noir. So it's really good, and it gives flexibility. So sometimes some producers can have up to nearly 1/4 of their production being Blanc de Noir. So it's becoming fairly serious. The final slide I'll sign off on is the structure from the Verband Deutsche Prädikatsweingüter, which is the VDP. The VDP has 7 winery members in the Ahr. This is 87 hectares in total, which accounts for about 16.5% of total vineyard landscape. The permitted varieties are just twofold: Spätburgunder, and the only place in Germany to permit for große Gewächs is Frühburgunder grape variety. The regional wine association is called the Ahr Valley, and that was founded in 2011. Thank you so much for listening here on the Wine with Jimmy channel. If you really want to sign up to the Wine with Jimmy Club that has a huge amount of exclusive content, wine recommends, food and wine pairing, exclusive series, then please, for £3.99, you can sign up to the club. The link is in the video below this video. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I'll try and say video multiple more times video. Ciao for now. Dankeschön. I'm Jimmy. Goodbye.